Welcome to the 2016 Hawaii's Woodshow, sponsored by the Hawaii Forest Industry Association. This exhibition highlights the work of the Woodshow Masters Division, the top artisans in the state. And one of the great things about the Woodshow is that's a chance for the public to see the resources that grow in Hawaii at their best. Each year we see the pieces that are in the show and we think, how could this possibly get better? Probably the common theme that I would say that they all have together is they absolutely love what they do. Frank McClure, he does shapes that people look at and say, you can't do that, and he finds a way to do that.
Everything I do is one of a kind. Don't have really a lot of angular stuff. Most of mine are very fluid curves. The tree incorporates those types of curves when it grows. It's exploratory. Every day I'm in my shop, I don't really know what I'm gonna get. This is a piece of Milo. I didn't want to just turn this entire center into chips. So I came up with a technique many years ago where I bought this special chainsaw that I can actually cut the entire center out in one piece and make another bowl. This is called my carving saw, and this bar allows the tip to cut a tighter radius that allow me to develop this process where I remove the entire center of the bowl in one piece. In the past, I've been able to get up to 4 different pieces out of the same bowl. I was born in Idaho. My dad worked for the government, so I moved all over the place. We moved to Oahu. After 2 years of college, I moved to Kauai. Got a job making surfboards. And I always made surfboards as a kid, but I actually turned it into a job and kind of transitioned into carpentry. I had never had any interest in art, never took an art class. I was into native plants. And when I moved here, I hiked the native forest all the time. So I kind of took stock of what my skills were. I was good with a chainsaw and a power plane and a grinder. And I made a bowl, and it sold right away. And a light kind of went off in my head, and one thing led to another, and now I just do this. I made a curved chisel that I can go into the curve that's made by the chainsaw. And when I tap on it, it actually wants to work its way under this, and it can sever those fibers that I'm a little too scared to cut with a chainsaw. I use wooden wedges to lift it out, and it'll give me a little better angle because the deeper I am, the more likelihood there is of me coming out the other side. By tapping wedges in around the sides, it wants to lift it out. There we go. I mean, the whole point of taking the middle out is to not waste. The way I work is I always shape the outside first. I'll find what I feel is a pleasing shape within the framework of what the tree allows me to do. I let what's inherent in the wood play a part in what I make. I kind of feel like we're working a little bit together. It's informing me more so what I can't do than what I can. Things that have gone on in the tree's life that have dictated how that tree will grow are elements that can give me insights into what I make. It's just a process that I go through, but I think anyone who makes one-of-a-kind pieces has that. I think in one respect, because I didn't have the art classes and the background of all that, I didn't really know the rules, so I could break them. So it allowed me to kind of do things that maybe other people didn't. there's something that I'm working on that doesn't feel right to me, I will work to change that. That's really the only real guideline I use. I think that's what makes it so fun, is I just do what I want to do. I mean, I wasn't a woodworker when I came to the Big Island. And I really feel like a big part of that is the Big Island acting upon me. I never saw it coming. I was a carpenter, and I love being here. It's just very peaceful to be here, and I wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
Well, the HFIA, Hawaii Forest Industry Association's purpose is basically to protect and preserve and manage the forests of Hawaii. I mean, one of our best resources is all the woods that grow here. A lot of what HFIA does is to protect the endangered species and also to manage the forests to make sure that the trees and the plants that do grow here have a healthy environment with which that they can grow. Pat Kramer, once again, is another artist who thinks on a level that most of us don't relate to, and he can incorporate that into the pieces he does.
I've always loved doing containers. I just wanted to make containers that were more organic and not quite so predictable. When I've got an idea about where I'm going with a piece, it's not an idea about exactly what it looks like. It's about what it feels like. Roughing out means you deal with pieces that are basically unbalanced. This is a moving target. I like the whole idea of sort of busting through. What I want is something fairly concentric, but with enough variation that we get an interesting pattern. When you're working with pieces that are organic or natural edge or something like that, you have to let go of the safety net of, well, it's going to be round. You have to sort of step back a little bit, you know, and you have to take another look at it from maybe a distance. If you give yourself license to just go with whatever's in there, then the wood sets a canvas for you. So what I want to end up with is I want to end up with islands of sapwood that paint a picture all the way around it. And halfway through, you know, the wood might tell me that, you know, this is so wrong. And so to predict what it's going to look like ahead of time is ludicrous. Because even though it's a simple, elegant shape, it is interactive still. Okay, and I have to pay attention to the wood. Just making it round it wouldn't be very challenging for one thing. There's no sort of excitement about what can I get out of it. I mean, you've probably gone out, rescued the wood, had to learn what it likes and doesn't, and had to sit and think like, okay, now what am I going to do with it? One of the things that a lot of turners have accused me of is that I'm apparently the foot and leg man. It's so odd to have this thing being very organic on top, and then you come down to this round bottom. You know, just doing a flat round bottom, that would be the easy way to do it, but it's a bad compromise for me. It just would not occur to me that that would be okay, because I would always be looking at the piece thinking that, yeah, I basically copped out. I took the easy road. That's how it came out that I started carving feet. Because if it was all about that piece having a lot of air, I figured put some air under it. It became sort of a challenge figuring out different ways, you know, to put pieces on stands and all that, because you didn't want the stand to be a major part of it. So now I'm going to double check. I'm doing okay on the bottom. I noticed the bottom was a little more irregular, but I've got more of a dramatic curve coming around here, so it'll pull itself in more graciously than up here. A lot of this is sort of taking a deep breath and backing off and remembering where you were going. Every once in a while, everything's going to land just right, and you're going to do it without overthinking it. By the end of the day, if you've managed to go through dozens of bowls, you really start to refine the way you see it, you know? So what it is that honing your skills. Well, the shape is very clunky right now, but it's mainly what I'm looking for is like, do I need to dramatically alter any of the dimensions over here to pull in the final shape? You're finding a way to refine what you see. So you're focusing more. Because ultimately, that's going to be the difference between a piece that you like and one that's maybe not so good. It's almost like muscle memory, where you know that it just needs a little tweak here or there. What I find is that sometimes it's only a matter of a 32nd or a 16th of an inch off in one spot. You do a few thousand bowls, and pretty soon you start to be able to see the subtle difference between what's good and what's not. So now I want to continue this on. Let the tool actually drive itself through the line. It really is putting yourself sort of into the process and just accepting that you have to get certain things out of the way or you can't move on. That's what keeps a lot of turners going, I think. You know, because they all have that, they have this great piece of wood and God, it was beautiful inside. I figure, hey, take it one step further, you know? Play with it more and say, like, let it take you somewhere. And it's a funny balance to the whole thing. Either way, there's still the emotional attachment to wood. But I will tell you is that if the wood is telling me that you're going the wrong way, I listen. Okay, so what I like is that if you're going to have emotional attachments to wood, okay, it's good to pay attention to it too. You got one shot at getting the shape, and the idea is make it all make sense. So those are the constraints and also the challenges that go with it. So yeah, it's going to be a long time before that blows off and I'm saying that I'm done with it.
Over the years, as our top artists continued to win awards, we wanted to find a way both to honor those who were the best of the best and to give the new competition a chance. That's how the Hawaii Masters division was born. Michael Patrick Smith, he has taken the embellishment to a level that most people will probably never attain to.
I like working with my hands and my mind and coming up with new types of designs and new work. It was something that always wondered me a lot, why people would want to create crafts. I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. I ended up going to University of Cincinnati in industrial design and left, and that's when I moved to Hawaii back in '81. I was always interested in art and design. I am my own worst critic. I think that's a good trait to have. And I think most artists and craftspeople are like that. But it will always push you down the line to try to better that piece. It's that push. You know, being critical of your work gives you that push to be a better craftsperson. The lathe is really like the smallest part of what I do now. It's the grunt work of what I do. The whole wood process is a very slow process. You have to turn it, let it dry, come back to it, sand it, work it, and then you have to oil it, which can take several weeks. Most of the bowls that I turn are simple, shallow bowls, which are easy. Now, I don't work with koa or Milo. My wood is Norfolk and Cook pine because of what I do to it. What I do is pyrography. The translation is writing with fire. It's a power source that's connected to a pen, just little touches of the wood to create art on turned wood. It's mostly design. Some are a little more artistic and detailed, and others are a little more design-like. I'll go anywhere a good design will take me. It could be ahi, it could be koi, it could be an Art Deco design, or just simple spiral designs. And usually when I create a design, I'm looking for something out there that I think the public would like to have in their home and to value. And that part of what I do is always an exciting part, to come up with something new and to put it together and to get it out there and then get a call from a gallery that says this sold and it's the first time you did it. I like what I do. I'm competitive, and that competitive spirit forces me to try to create the best thing that I can, and I'm great at detail, especially the type of work that I do with the burning, the pyrography. It's trying to take with what you're given and make it visually attractive and acceptable. I think I'm going to stay here because it's what I'm known for. And it's not being complacent, staying where I'm at. It's the comfort zone. It is, it's the comfort zone. But I still always have that drive in me. I've been a professional since I've started 16 years ago. I always thought that I would be involved in some sort of art. And I did it, and I'm still here, you know, still going along. And I probably will for the rest of my life.
We want people to appreciate the woods that grow in Hawaii. We want them to appreciate what it takes to protect those woods and manage those woods. We want them to appreciate the artistry and the skill of the craftsmen that make them. You know, the artists that we've talked about have been doing it most of their lives. I don't know as anybody really masters it. Everybody continues to get better, but nobody ever gets as good as they possibly can.
I designed things that would last, would be made out of koa. By and large, everything I do now is designed and built by myself. And I'll make it clear right now. If you look up masters in the dictionary, it says
Alan Wilkinson.
No, it doesn't. It says this person has mastered, and that means you have mastered it. This person, Alan Wilkinson, makes mistakes every day. That is not a master. I am a journeyman furniture maker, period. Don't call me a master. And you know, those mistakes are wonderful because they really teach you. I was born in Southern California in 1943, then came here. I went to the University of Hawaii, and my major was sculpture. I knew some people in the restaurant industry, and they asked me to do some interior work in restaurants. And that's when I actually started my company. And then about '69, I was introduced to koa. Nowadays, I do almost nothing but very large works. Dining room sets with a table and a chair. Bedroom furniture, did a lot of that. Beds, nightstands, chest of drawers. I've always liked koa with little accents of very dark wood. It kind of makes the koa pop out. And I like to turn certain pieces, like for instance, I'll do a large cabinet, but the feet, I usually turn 4 feet to put that on the floor. I've gone from very organic shapes to very rectilinear shapes, although there's a lot of curved work in that, in the current work too. Every piece that I do is veneered just about, but it's not all veneered. There's usually a lot of solid work in it. You usually need that to hold the whole thing together. You have a core what the veneer is going to go on. That can either be solid wood or it can be a very high-grade plywood, ideally. And then before the piece is even made, you veneer that core. This chair is a very good example. The seat is veneered. The uprights are all solid koa, but the horizontals are solid koa and then veneered with curly koa on top of that. I take a 1-inch board and I can make 6 pieces of veneer out of that. And each piece of those veneer finished is going to be a 1/16 of an inch. This is a marking gauge. That is going to be the thickness of my veneer. So as long as I follow the line on the top and keep this bearing against the wood at the bottom, it's going to be the same. You can design with so much more freedom with veneer than you can with solid wood. And another thing that I like to do is use color. Now that's something I get a lot of flack from the local community, but I really enjoy doing it. Purple, wow. I just really like color. It's exciting. Wow, look at that, you know. I'm just going to keep on as long as I can, as long as I keep on. I love this spot. I've got all the wood I'll ever need. I am 73 years old, and I every day I get up and I look forward to going to work. You know, hopefully you learn and you see, your eyes are opened up. You just find things that you're comfortable with. But it is fun. It is fun.
I think one of the things that makes the show great is the diversity. If it was all just a furniture show, people wouldn't do much. If it was all just a whole bunch of round bowls, it wouldn't do much. But it's the variety both of the types of pieces and the types of woods that really amaze everybody.
You have to hold a piece completed in your mind before you start. Before the first chip flies, you have already completed this in your mind. So now it's just a matter of connecting all those dots for the next few days, and it's really a nice time in the shop. I don't answer the phone, I don't return calls. It's really a wonderful time. I love wood, and I love making stuff. I'm from Rockford, Illinois. Grew up in construction and family business. I got my first contractor's license at 21. Stayed in construction until I was about 36, building anything. I built a lot of Kona, but my heart was always in woodwork. In 1991, I decided to make the complete shift over to freestanding furniture. I decided to scuttle my company and just make the commitment to doing full-time furniture. I realized that unless I gave this 110%, that it wasn't going to go. It's like an actor that waits tables waiting for their role. You know, so if you're taking other work besides what your passion is, you're not doing your passion. When you're doing construction, you're always working on a committee. And when I'm in the shop, I'm in complete control of the design and the integrity of the piece and the quality. The architectural training I had translates directly into the design work. How a piece lights, what the mood of the room is, what the function of the piece is. Furniture is basically miniature architecture. About half of what we do is koa. The rest of it comes from an array of island-grown woods that are world-class. A large part of what we do is the full cycle of woodworking, which includes reforestation. And I've been with the Hawaii Forest Industry Association for 20 years, and that's all about what are we doing to make sure that these opportunities for making these beautiful things are available for generations down the road. The forests that we're planting now won't be used for 100 years, but someone has to be on that. Someone has to make that happen. And I believe that falls to the woodworker. This is a desk. This one is koa. A lot of what we're seeing now is this very severe architecture. The way people soften that is to bring in these natural wood forms. This kind of a piece tends to soften an interior and make it more natural. It's a living piece that comes into it. But we set it on these very structured bases so that the architecture can come into the piece and kind of celebrate the natural form here on top. I'm using form and line to achieve harmony and balance. And that takes all I have, and that's what I love about it. It keeps me on the edge of my seat. Design starts on these things when I still have a chainsaw in my hand. You see a piece of wood like this, and you learn to recognize what the grain is doing, because what I want in it ultimately is I want grains that harmonize with the overall design. These two pieces have the curl sitting right in the center of the board, and the grain on both of those is coming out to embrace the whole overall form of the piece. When I'm done with the piece, you won't even notice that, but it'll feel right. It'll be harmonious. It'll sit there and it'll have rhythm and a balance. These are things that people won't really notice, but they have a feel for. Another thing that I do is I pillow all my surfaces. These are not flat, they're all slightly curved, and that way you bring a gentleness to the piece. What I find is that if you work strictly from drawings, your pieces are a little cold. To illustrate that, sometimes you'll make a drawing of a 1-inch detail here, and when you get the piece built, you go, wait a minute, the 1 inch would match this here, so it would be technically a logical extension, but it doesn't look right. And so you're sitting there at the very end of the piece going, no, that only needs to be 3/4. That should not be right. So you always hold back a little bit. You always wait till you're in the moment with the design, and then you always go for what feels right. We chase perfection in here. At that point, it becomes kind of a spirit path. When you get close to perfection, you know you're never going to get it. That's the challenge of this, and that's what keeps me on my toes. Completion is no different than any other part on a project. So the whole thing is a circle, because now when that piece goes out the door, you have an empty bench, you can start over again. And without that completion, you don't get to keep doing this. So it's all part of the circle. There's a lot in this work to keep you humble. And every piece you do is like your first piece. The higher you go, the farther your horizons go out, so that your world just becomes a little bigger and you never catch up with it. There's always a new challenge. There's always a new something you haven't tried or something that will keep you humble. I've been at this my whole life and I'm still on the edge of my seat.
Statewide, we've got a lot of great talent, and in the Woodshow, I think it's the cream of the crop, the best that the state has to offer.
I think this state probably is really tops in the country for wood artists.
Each year we see new pieces that come along that we didn't dream of, and so the talent continues to grow. And once again, one of the great things about all of the artists participating is they push and encourage each other to move on and to push the boundaries and to push the envelope and to try harder. Rollo, he has some of the most spectacular guitars I've ever seen. When you look at the intricacy in the workmanship on them, it's like nothing you've ever seen before.
Instruments are not pieces of furniture, they're a tool for a musician. You have to build something initially that's aesthetically very pleasing. There's something about the hand-built element of it that it connects me to the instrument. First is this accomplishment that, God, I can't believe I did this. I actually built a stringed instrument. And then a couple days later, I was just overwhelmed, actually to tears, that it was, man, this was just, I just had never dreamed of and had that type of reward for something that I have done. And at that point, I was hooked. My first instruments were two guitars. I decided, since I'm a twin, I'm going to build twin guitars, right? I thought they came out pretty good. Sound is really your own perception of what you like to hear. Woods have different tonal characteristics. You know, the Brazilians being really favored for real bright sound, koa, Cuban mahogany, more on the warmer type sounds. In the hands of a good skilled luthier, what you want to do is help coax out the potential of what those woods are. And I will basically tap tune it before I put the back on by tapping on the top of it, trying to get a nice uniform sound throughout it. There, you can hear it. Yeah. This is local Cuban mahogany from Oahu, and these are quarter sawn pieces, two separate pieces that were book matched, and this is going to be the back of this particular guitar. For what I want to build and what I want to play with, this is the wood that I want to use. So I'm going to adjust my bracings to optimize what this wood is capable of doing. The old style bracing was a ladder bracing, which was two horizontal braces that ran front to back on it. So I started experimenting with a double X, which is in the back of the X brace where the bridge plate is. I use another small little X brace in there. I've been successful with that, and I think all luthiers have to do that. They have to find what works for them. I have a little large area here with a hole drilled in it, and these will be used to index the top and the back to that center line. My neck will run off of this, the bridge will run off that center line. So it's important that I lay these out. I have my bracing pattern laid out, and I could just make these little dots in through the plexiglass and have my pattern for where I'm going to be gluing my bracing. And this is how I will build the instrument. Here again, this body shape here is taken off my plexiglass template. This is going to be how I line up the top and the back to the center line of the guitar. My instruments, as you can tell, all have detail. That's what I enjoy doing, is the detail work and really making it kind of stand out. I like to be subtle, but to keep the eye moving over the instrument and picking up different aspects of the instrument. Believe me, I make a lot of mistakes at times, and it's having the patience to say, okay, it's not what I want, I can't let it go that way. I need to redo it. The ukulele is a real instrument. I think on my third instrument, I was doing radius fretboards on my ukuleles. That was taking guitar things. I started radiusing my tops and backs as well. You can see that there's space in there, and that's adding strength to this back and to the top without adding weight. I have a real even response all the way from the bass to the treble side. I'll tune the low E at the 5th fret, go up and play that note at the 17th fret, and I'll adjust the crown on my saddle so that those two are sounding the same. This is a multi-scale guitar that I built. What I chose to do on this was to take two different scale lengths. Scale length is accomplished by not only changing the directions of the nut and the saddle, but the frets have to be mathematically correspond with those scale lengths. So everything is kind of put on this angle. And as you can see, the angle is following the shape at the nut and then changing the angle here of where it reaches the saddle. So not only are you getting a combination of different tonal characteristics because of the two scale lengths, ergonomically it's more pleasing. I don't produce on a big level. A couple, 3 or 4 instruments a year. That's guitars and ukuleles. I went into it to be an expression of what creativity I have, what artistic ability that I have, which I didn't find until I found the instrument. I absolutely do the best that I do with lutherie. I didn't have any idea what it was about until I was here in Hawaii and my levels kept changing, that maybe I wanted to challenge myself. But I thought I could do it, and I was a little bit overwhelmed with what was involved, but I kept pushing myself with it. Other people recognize that what I'm doing is really good, and I'm very proud of that. Very, very happy with it.
The 6 artisans that you have just seen are this year's Hawaii's Woodshow Masters. We hope you've enjoyed this, and we also want to thank HFIA for sponsoring this exhibition. Aloha!